Welcome to this presentation on So You Want to Start a Direct Meat Marketing Business as part of the Virginia Cooperative Extension and Virginia Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coalition's Taste of Farming series. My name is Sarah Sharpe, and I'm an agriculture extension agent based in Greene County, Virginia. First off, a little bit about me and why I'm qualified to talk about this. I grew up on my family's diversified farming operation where we grew many different crops, but my family also had a direct market pork business. I grew up going to farmers markets every Saturday morning and worked on the farm after I graduated from college as a salesperson and helping with all of the aspects of the operation. I also have experience starting a direct meat marketing business as my now husband and I sold freezer beef directly to consumers. I want to make this very clear. I am not an expert on this. I know enough to be dangerous and to answer some questions, but many of these laws and regulations can get confusing quickly. One of the first places that you want to call and talk to is the Office of Meat and Poultry Services at the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Also, I relied heavily on the What Do I Need to Know to Sell Meat and Poultry at the Farmers Market fact sheet to create this presentation. I've included a link to this fact sheet in the resources section on the Taste of Farming website. So let's go over a little bit of what we are going to go over today. I'm not going to talk about the animal production side much because that's something you can find in other presentations that we have. I'm going to talk about the logistics of the meat side and the things that you should be thinking about as you get started in business. We are going to talk about the legal requirements that are in place, how you're going to sell your meat, and a little bit about the business aspect. First off, the legal aspect of it. It's important to note that all meat products derived from cattle, swine, sheep, and goats must be produced in a federal or state-inspected facility. If you have your animals processed in a state-inspected facility, those products can only be sold within the state. If it is processed in a federally inspected facility, those products can be sold out of the state. You will often hear the federally inspected facility referred to as USDA inspected. When you are talking to processors, how you want to sell your products may determine if you want a state or USDA inspected facility. I always get lots of questions about the requirements when it comes to poultry. Poultry, this includes turkeys, chickens, ducks, geese, squab, guinea fowl, and ratites, must be federally or state inspected unless you have a poultry exemption. You can apply for an exemption from VDAX OMPS if you slaughter no more than 1,000 birds per year. You only buy or sell poultry products that are raised, slaughtered, or processed on your farm. You slaughter and process using sanitary facilities, practices, and procedures fit for human food. You keep records, and you only sell within your state. If you slaughter and process more than 1,001 birds, but less than 20,000 birds, you can also apply for an exemption. However, once you get to this level, the Office of Meat and Poultry Services will come out and inspect your facilities on an annual basis, and you must be able to show proof of a current certificate of a potable water supply, record keeping, show evidence of healthy birds, and a sanitation program. If you are interested in this, you will need to contact VDAX OMPS and talk with them. Just to finish up this section on the legal and regulatory requirements, know that there are some specific requirements when it comes to labeling. There's a list of items that must be included on every single label. You will want to talk to your processor to see how your information may be put onto their label. The list of requirements can be found on the link that's in the resources section. A little later on, we will briefly discuss marketing claims and why I believe you shouldn't put them on your label. Oh man, this is a tough one. However, I will say, with the influx of processors coming online and coming into business, this is February of 2023 as I record this, that your selection is getting better. You may want to talk to a few different processors to see what they offer, what their packaging options are, their prices, turnaround times, pickup and drop-off times, etc., to see what is going to be the best fit for you and your operation. You will also need to find out how far in advance you can get on their schedule, how often you can have animals processed, and what their list looks like in case you need to get an animal in at the last minute. Ask around, find out who other people use, or go to different local farmers markets and businesses to see where other farmers are having their meat processed. That's one of those label requirements. You will need to decide how you are going to sell your animals. Are you going to sell freezer animals, so quarters, halves, and wholes, or are you going to sell retail packages? There are two different aspects here. First, when we think about freezer animals, those are ones that normally already have a buyer. You can take deposits, which I recommend to make sure that the end customer has some buy-in for that animal. If you are selling retail packages, you have to make sure that you are pricing your products correctly and that you know about those different cuts. Make sure that you do some research and figure out what type of cuts that you're going to get from your animals. Then, make sure you know how to cook them. We know that steaks and pork chops sell, but what about the lesser-known Denver steaks or pork tenderloins? You have to be your own salesperson for your products. The more that you know, the more tips that you can give your customers, the better. If you're selling freezer beef, you have to be able to give your customers a good estimate of how much meat they're going to get. There are some great publications that help with that. I've included that link in the resources section. Often, the checkoff websites for the different species have great educational sections that will help you learn about the different cuts of meat and the best ways to cook them. Plus, who doesn't love a good recipe? You've thought about how you will sell your products, but now where are you going to sell them? Farmers markets, farm stores, wholesale, retail stores, distributors, farm to school, CSAs. There are so many options to choose from. There are pros and cons to all of these, so I encourage you to really think these through. Farmers markets can be a great way to get your products into a large number of people. You can often get the most for your products here. Oftentimes, farmers market customers are there because they want to support local and purchase from local farmers. You can try out new products and build great relationships with your customers. However, they can also be very time-consuming. The time spent preparing for the farmer's market, at the market, and then unpacking from the market can be exhausting. Also, you have to make sure that the market that you choose isn't already saturated with meat vendors that you'd be competing with. Farm stores are another popular option that I'm seeing pop up. These can allow individuals onto the farm, both a pro and a con. You can have pre-orders for people to just pick up from the farm, and they don't require as much setup and unpacking that farmers markets do. However, you have to make sure that whatever you do is allowed by your county, and you have to be prepared for people to show up often at any time, whether your farm store is open or not. This encompasses items like restaurants, distributors, and often farm to school. The main idea is that this would be a large sale of a few products to one general location. This is great because this may mean that one drop-off would allow for the sale of a large amount of your products. This could be a great option if you don't really like people or don't want to put in the time that a farmer's market requires. However, you have to realize that if you sell at a wholesale market that you often cannot charge a retail price for it. You also have to make sure that you have a consistent supply for these buyers. Also, you have to make sure that you can sell the rest of your products if the buyer only wants one thing. For example, if one restaurant wants 100 pounds of hamburger from you every week, can you sell the rest of those steaks and roasts, or is your freezer going to be full fast? These days, it's almost impossible to have a business without having some type of social media presence. Web pages are still important, but some businesses run completely off of Facebook or Instagram. I would encourage anyone starting a business to explore these options. One important thing to remember is whatever platform that you choose, you must be consistent. That means posting regularly, posting pictures of your farm, posting pictures of your products, posting videos of you talking about your products, whatever makes you real to that end consumer to make them want to purchase your products. While I'm not going to go into all of the marketing claims that are out there, examples would be grass-fed, grass-finished, hormone-free, pastured, organic, natural, non-GMO, etc. There are many different lines of thought on how to best market your products. I encourage you to honestly tell your story and tell your customers why you do what you do without putting down other farmers or other farming practices. We all have a responsibility to safely feed consumers, and there is a spot at the table for all farming methods. Be careful making claims, and I do not encourage anyone to put any of these claims on the labels. If you do that, there's a whole other level of government that you have to go through to get this label approved that requires lots and lots of paperwork and documentation. Make sure that you have thought out the business side of this business. Writing a business plan is a great place to start. It can help you think through many of the topics that we've talked about today. The goal of your business is, hopefully, to make money, and we want to make sure that you have thoroughly thought out all aspects of starting a direct marketing meat business. This can be the added expense of feeding animals until they are ready to be slaughtered, making sure that your market can support another producer, that you have customers that are ready and willing to pay what you need so that you can make a profit, and more. This was a lot of information, and I barely even scratched the surface. I participated in half-day workshops that cover this information, so it's tough to try to fit all this information into one presentation. Feel free to reach out to me or your local extension agent if you're thinking about starting a direct meat marketing business. We can help talk you through this idea to help you decide if this might be a good fit for you. Thanks for listening this far. Feel free to reach out if I can be of any assistance.